joy is kind of an interesting word. It's a bit vague and nebulous. And we know that there's some relationship to happiness, but what that is, it just seems a little bit fluid. So I'm not necessarily going to make a huge distinction between happiness and joy, but there is a distinction. And we all share a certain quote-unquote secret agenda. It's not really a secret anymore since I'm going to say it, and that is that we all want to be happy. We all want to be free of suffering, and we want to be happy. And not only do we want to be happy, we really want to be joyful. And I know when I say I want to be joyful or I'm joyful, there's a different feeling that comes across than saying I want to be happy. And not only do we want to be joyful, we want to be joyful forever, not just in this moment or in tomorrow. We want to be joyful forever, and all sentient beings want this. And I said I wasn't going to make a distinction between happiness and joy or say what that was, but to me it feels like joy is a state of being or a state of mind. That we can be faced with challenges, situations, and stresses in life and still be joyful. We may not be happy, but we can be joyful. And I want to share a quote from His Holiness the Dalai Lama regarding joy. Which further elaborates on this point. There are various factors that contribute to attaining that level of joy and happiness, which we conventionally also recognize as sources of happiness, such as good physical health, the wealth that we accumulate, and a circle of friends we trust, and with whom we can relate emotionally. Now all of these are, in reality, sources of happiness. But in order for one to be able to fully utilize them with the goal of enjoying a happy and fulfilled life, one's state of mind is crucial. If one harbors hateful thoughts within, or strong or intense anger somewhere deep down, then it ruins one's health. So it destroys one of the factors. Even if one has wonderful possessions, when one is in an intense moment of anger or hatred, one feels like throwing them, breaking them, or throwing them away. So there is no guarantee that wealth alone can give one the joy or fulfillment that one seeks. Similarly, when one is in an intense state of anger or hatred, even a very close friend appears somehow frosty, cold and distant, or quite annoying. What this indicates is that our state of mind is crucial in determining whether or not we gain joy and happiness. So leaving aside the perspective of Dharma practice, even in worldly terms, in terms of our enjoying a happy day-to-day existence, the greater the level of calmness of our mind, the greater our peace of mind, and the greater our ability to enjoy a happy and joyful life. It would be a bit long to repeat, but what I like about this statement is that it's emphasizing the role that our state of mind plays. That if we're in a joyless state, even things that would normally make us happy, or our attempts to arouse joy are not going to be effective. At best, they may make us kind of giddy or arise some kind of pseudo-joy. Like I'm thinking of someone who is drunk and they're laughing and joking, but are they really joyful? Probably not. Or someone who has a deep state of depression, and they may try different strategies to arise joy. And they may at best arise a little bit of happiness through alcohol, drugs, shopping, food, whatever. But they're not really able to arise joy. So we somehow need to address, if we're in a state where we've lost our joy, a joyless state, we somehow need to address this joyless state. We can't simply layer joy on top of a joyless state. So how do we do this? We already know that doing outer things is probably not going to work.
Are you asking us for ideas, or is that a rhetorical question?
That's more of a rhetorical question, but you can answer if you want.
Well, you're talking about you can't layer joy onto a joyless state. So, and I'm tying back into teachings in Buddhism that say that your pure natural state of your being is joyful and has been forever untouched. So it seems to me it's a matter of removing the crap,
the delusions
on top of it. So it's more like cleaning up.
Mm-hmm. Roto-rooterine.
And revealing what's there, as opposed to trying to go grab and gain something else. It's not gonna.
Yeah, we need to address the joyless state. We need to purify. And also, even on a more basic level, we could just say we need to change our mind. We need to purify and change our perceptions. And we know this is possible because even something as simple as 3 people going into a movie, they all may have a different experience of the movie. Maybe the first person cries throughout the entire movie. And maybe the second person doesn't even see the movie. They see, their childhood experiences, and as they're experiencing the movie, they're experiencing their history, their childhood experiences. And the third person, maybe they actually see the movie and they see the actors and the events and have a happy and joyful experience of the movie. So if the same event produced the same result in everyone, we would know there was a cause and effect relationship. But we know that's not true, so we know it's possible to change our perceptions. And this training of a joyful mind begins with understanding this, that it's possible to change your perceptions and to change your mind, that our mind is flexible and can learn new perceptions. So first we go back and we address the crap, the delusions, the obscurations. And in doing so, we can change our mind. So Rinpoche has said that if you're deep in a joyless state, if you try and force joy, it can actually be harmful. So she didn't say how, but my understanding was that it's similar to the experience of like an alcoholic trying to produce joy in some way, that it's not going to produce the desired result. So we want to have some level of respect for where we are in our joy process. And even though we may want to feel joyful, we may have some cleaning to do first. So how do we go about and do this cleaning? There's many different ways. depending on what kind of practices you're doing, many people here are doing Buddhist meditation practices that can purify. But also having, well, there's some foundational work, I'm going to say. So going in, listening to the Buddhist teachings, reading the Buddhist teachings, and appreciating the value of them, of the awakened state. And then, based on that, being honest with yourself regarding your own state of mind in comparison to those teachings. And then starting to disrespect elements of your own mind, your own thinking process, your own behaviors that are in conflict with the Buddhist teachings. And also not admiring those elements in others. Do we know who's?
That's probably Sarah.
Sarah, okay.
Who's standing
Good to know. Okay, so after disrespecting those elements, we also have an understanding that those elements aren't us, that they're separate from us. And then we can remove them, which is a great feeling. When something that we can rejoice in, that we can be separated from our dysfunctions. And we can rejoice in how fortunate we are to have a path and have strategies to rescue us. And then comes the work of purification. Which is an interesting process. At times we feel light and joyful and things are going well. It's coming easily. And then there are times where things are not going well, where we're deep in the basement and covered in grime and we're not feeling joyful. Because really the work of separating ourselves from dysfunction can be not very pretty. So at those times, we need to cultivate joy as our dear friend. So being able to hold on to this tremendous joy of having found the path and working on it. So even though we may be dysfunctional and we're doing something about it, we're purifying, and eventually it will be better. Eventually we'll have a time of joy again, and maybe that'll last for a couple days or a couple weeks, and then we'll dive back down into the into the pit. So this is really the joy of participating in the preparation practice, the preparation process toward enlightenment. Oh, and by the way, I didn't say this at the beginning, but there's different kinds of joy. There's quite a few different kinds. So I'm just touching on one of them here. And this is one of the 6 perfections, joyous effort. And I think I'm going to take a moment here. This is a book by Thupten Chodron, Guided Meditations on the Stages of the Path. And she has a nice cogitation meditation on joyous effort, which I'd like to take a moment for us to go through. So basically, cogitation meditation is one of many forms of meditations. And it's designed to produce a result in your mind. So it'll be guided. I'll just read some statements and just think about them lightly. Joyous effort is taking delight in what is virtuous and worthwhile. To cultivate it, we must counteract the 3 kinds of laziness. Number 1, procrastination and sleep. Do you put off Dharma study and practice? Do you sleep more than your body needs? Do you like to lie around and do nothing? If so, meditation on death will help you not waste time being slothful. The second kind of laziness is attachment to worldly affairs and pleasures. Do you keep busy doing things or worrying about things which are not very important from a Dharma viewpoint? Are you attached to worldly success, worldly pleasures, and activities that are not very meaningful in the long run? If so, reflect on the disadvantages of cyclic existence. This will help you to see the futility of being attached to cyclic existence, invigorate your desire to be free from it, and enable you to set your priorities wisely. The third kind of laziness is discouragement and putting yourself down. Do you tend to be self-critical and judgmental? Do you have difficulties with self-esteem? Remember your Buddha nature. And this is in reference to your potential to become enlightened. And reflect on your precious human life. This will uplift your mind so you can recognize your potential. The intended outcome of this meditation is really to develop a sense of courage and joy so that we can engage in these three types of joyous effort. And the three types of joyous effort are withstanding discomfort to work for others' welfare, doing all constructive action motivated by the altruistic intention, and working to benefit others. Would anyone like to share their experience? This is definitely a meditation that you could spend much, much more time on. Personally, it causes me to feel a renewed enthusiasm or joyous effort for spiritual practice. It's a kind of like a jump starter, which is its intention. Go ahead, Deanie.
I was a little surprised with the sense that would come up around the lazies, the kinds of lazies.
Mm-hmm.
That was really interesting to watch what came up
Yeah.
when you were one of those. Because I can be inspired by reaching for the higher, being a Buddha, or moving in that direction to the best of my ability. But interestingly, what gets in the way was really a good thing to look at.
Yeah.
The three kinds of lazies. Whoa. It got my attention.
Good. Thank you, Dinima.
I will echo that. That kind of surprised me too. I'm a napper. I love to nap. Part of it is my job. I work with preschoolers. So on the weekends, not necessarily during the week, but on the weekends, I will sneak in a nap on Saturday and Sunday. And I carefully look at those naps, being a cancer survivor, only 2 years old, out, thinking to myself, are these naps for regenerating my spirit and making my life okay and healing from radiation and chemo, or are the naps sometimes, I was brought up, napping, you just don't do it, you just keep going. And that was the way that I was raised, that you work hard, you don't take time out. So I have found that the only way that I can experience joy is if I am well rested.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've really gone through some careful thinking regarding what's behind that activity. Yeah, thank you. All right. Okay. So another way we cultivate joy is living in the present moment. Because it's difficult to experience joy if we're not even present for our life, if we're living in the past or if we're living in the future. Some people really live their entire life from this mental place of the past. So there can actually be a shifting of consciousness where you're really observing the present moment from the position of the past. And in this example, typically that person expresses their life process through anger. That's kind of their emotion of choice or their delusion of choice. And then the other position is from living in the future. So the consciousness has been pushed into the future. And the defining characteristic of that kind of person is fear. That they're living their life in a place of fear. And they're actually creating stories about how events will come out. But it rarely really comes out the way they expect, because it's impossible to control all the factors involved. And then anger and fear can go together, that you can actually jump from the past over the present moment into the future and back. So in this case, you're never actually living life in the present moment. There's never a chance to actually be alive. And it's really interesting how many people live life this way. And Rinpoche has talked about this at length, and she gives the example of amusement parks and dangerous occupations and hobbies as being strategies to try and frighten yourself into the present moment where you could actually feel alive. A lot of people go down roller coasters because it gives them that exhilaration, and they're actually frightening themselves into the present moment. So a much, much safer strategy to bring yourself into the present moment is through kind of a short meditation here that I'm gonna lead you through. So close your eyes and think about coming here today. So either you drove here or you walked downstairs. So see yourself driving the car or walking. Maybe you can feel the steering wheel under your hands. So you see yourself in the past. And now imagine yourself about maybe 15 minutes from now. Either you're getting back in your car, or you're walking back up the stairs or over to Matt's place to work. And now again, we're going to go back into the past, except not as far back. Maybe remember what we were discussing a couple minutes ago, or even beginning this explanation, I asked you to close your eyes. And we're going to again jump back into the future position. So maybe think of what we might do at the end of this teaching. We'd be saying refuge together. Now again, slide back slightly. And as I'm talking, just let the words flow by. And don't try and grab onto them or grasp onto them. Just allow your mind to disengage and allow the words to flow by. Just listen and let them flow by like a stream. And you may feel kind of a tickling feeling that happens when you flow along with the words. And then try slowly opening your eyes and just maintain that flow without grasping onto the words. And maintain that kind of presence, like standing in water, You don't try and grab onto the water. You just stand there and let it flow by you. And that's the present moment. That is the now. Do you notice anything different?
Everything is colored more yellow. Even my face. Everything is yellow.
Yeah. The colors are brighter. Anything else you notice?
Seems like less effort.
Less effort to be present. Oh. Anyone else? How do you feel? Happy? It's easier to be joyful in the present moment. Maybe lighter. And now it's not difficult to plan the future or remember the past. As long as your mind remains in this careful flow. And for me personally, it feels like meditation. There's kind of a feeling that is similar to the meditation. And this is where we do our meditation practice, in the present moment. And your mind becomes kind of poised. And Rinpoche has said it's like poised like a feather on the tip of your finger. And you can actually do a little meditation with this as well, where you just hold out your finger and imagine that there's a huge white feather just balanced on the tip of your finger. There's no anger, there's no fear. Your mind is just poised there. And that feels like a good place to stop. Unless anyone has any questions. May my capacity for compassion be infinite. I dedicate these efforts to complete and total enlightenment, so that I may be of benefit to all sentient beings. May it be so.